Welcome to the Exposer. So today we're doing episode 9 of Exposing PT, aka Jim Jones of Spac Nation. So, ladies and gentlemen, this episode is where we'll be tapping into key elements which altogether make this organisation a cult, and London's worst business too, continuing from episode 8 where now they're moving to Hilton Bankside, where Spac Nation really start to embrace more of the fancy and prestigious lifestyle, despite hardly anyone even born into such a luxurious life. But the idea became much more appealing to almost everyone that would attend this place. Many of them would dress up in their latest drip to attend services, and there was even a staircase with marble floors and gold railing where people would take pictures. Nearly everyone that's been ordained has taken pictures on this staircase. This is Hilton Bankside. Location will be based in Southwark, and this area was convenient for many who lived in southeast London, especially as Elephant and Castle would be down the road where Bagel King is. This Hilton Bankside place would also be the last place where Spac, for what we know it, would stop going by the name Spac Ministries, except on their accounts, and go by Spac Nation instead. From 2017 onwards, it became what we know as Spac Nation, and became a lot more focused on pleasing people and having a massive recruitment for people to attend. And the reason why they were able to hire out such a place in business-looking part of London is because of the fact that the loans had started before this, allegedly. PT himself would have made sacrifices to make sure that this business he has called Spac Nation comes off the ground, and through his preaching and the brainwashing began to pick up, even from the Hilton Hotel Canary Wharf and before then too. It astonished him as to how much numbers were coming in, so the Hilton Hotel Bankside proved itself to be a home fit to house the fraudulent church, allegedly. When Spac first entered into this building, there would also be many seats filled, even up to the very last row because of this new church catering to so many youth. At this point in time, Spac Nation was the place to be in London. No one really knew of the ins and outs and what they do behind closed doors. However, what we did see was a man leading a church filled with young black youth who dressed well. People would say so much good things about the place, and this is also where the church would get to over 1,000 members too. However, you would only ever see PT on the pulpit, the man who claims to know the Bible inside out preaching on stage. Hardly ever a different pastor, except for the one time that Pastor Emma got her dad to preach on the stage. The sermon wasn't all that at all, but it had to do with relationships, and that was something that Spac really liked. This is the location where he would preach sermons entitled Ministers and Millionaires, using spiritual powers to get ahead and sowing the seen for the unseen, and made up women where they had to mobilize a lot of women to come to the service and funding a revival. So you can tell that even by the titles of those sermons, you even get a clue of where his heart really is. Not for people to be genuine followers of God or to grow in holiness, but for people to follow his notion and power and having money and doing exploits, which is all just for show, an attempt to establish Spac Nation as a legitimate church away from the standard church in London. A lot of his preaching as well, henceforth, would involve preaching to the black community. At one point, many of the congregation were even given a book to read in their spare time called The Jewish Phenomenon, and this book has certain points which Pastor Sam and also PT desired for us to read and learn from. Because the same way Jews, wherever they are, managed to thrive amongst themselves is the same way PT wanted black to be. To have this sort of microeconomy where one day we won't have to ask anyone on the outside for anything, but we would be self-sufficient. This is where the error comes in. You cannot call yourself a pastor and preach things like this with different angles to it. This is why many preachers talk about the importance of being a righteous Christians as the foundation and then proceed to talk about other things. But the primary focus is Jesus, and for me, it was at the point of him renting out the Hilton hotels and especially Bankside where the preaching and the type of service that were held started to be an ungodly agenda. He would do entrepreneur Sundays too, where apparently someone would be gifted with money. He also done the Apprentice Sunday program, but however, the plot thickens when he preaches of the importance of grabbing so many souls. And it was at this point where many, and roadmen in particular, were drawn into Spac Nation, to the point where even Kojo funds came along and people started to take pictures of him. It was the Beckton people in Spac who invited Kojo to the church in the hopes that he would drop his worldly music and join Spac, so Spac could look better. Spac identified him as being a big fish, and when the word went around that he would make an appearance, many started to get excited. Kojo, I believe, only attended twice, and shortly after, no one ever saw him at the venues. Good on him, because he's a talented artist, and they definitely cared for the artist, not the person behind the artist. Spac isn't a place where you should be affiliating yourself with, because they will try to engulf a person and spit them out, if they are no use to them, or if they rebel against their movement. So at this moment in time, Hilton Bankside was getting way too crowded, and even had 2 services. So some would stay over to the second service, and these services will also witness an overflow of men who may have been allegedly carrying things with them. Not just that, but allegedly many ordained people would also disrespect the Hilton staff, and Hilton simply could not stand the level of disruption and disrespect that his so-called church would give to the hotel. It would cause panic to the neighbours living opposite the venue, as people would hang around there for at least another hour and park up just to round the venue too. So you can see how Spac people are. There have also had times in Spac Nation where a youth revival, Spac service, where ushers would climb on chairs and literally jump to lay hands on people and hold them from falling. The whole scene was just super chaotic. The mess that would be made will take very long to clean up too. Not just that, but there's allegedly been a few fights in and outside of the venue too. And so Hilton Hotel spoke to PT and his team a few times before, I believe, coming to a final decision of bearing Spac from the premises. There would be a high amount of men who dislike each other too in this church. It came to a point where almost every other week there's a problem. So it's not even just like people are getting saved in this church and spiritual attacks are happening, it's actual beef with other people in this church. A prime example is what happened at Riverbank Park Plaza in Vauxhall with Young Diz coming along. This long enough squashing beef and making a public scene of it too was also another self-glorifying tactic that Spac would use, because at that point Spac would repeat similar sermons and always speak about the gang issues in North London and East London and South London. At this service, PT actually wore the gold colour of the same trainers that are in this picture, Nike 97s, which I believe he was gifted with. And it is weird because PT actually never wears trainers. In fact, apparently he doesn't like trainers. He's a man who prefers wearing shoes and sandals. However, this reinforces my point that everything is for show. When he was younger, as you can see from his old YouTube and TV appearance days, a long time ago, he dressed in suits and t-shirts and normal straight jeans, but now it looks like someone is helping him pick out outfits on certain Sundays. However, now as we speak, I don't believe he's been doing that, because those that are under him, like the Hope Dealers and the current 3Gs, are the ones being made to go out and look like what they are not in order to attract. He feels like he has to look like people. That right there is an insecurity issue, if you ask me. If dressing in a certain way is what will do the job, then it's fake. A person should never feel the entitlement to compromise themselves regarding their look. If you're bringing the message of the gospel to them, then they will listen, and you will connect to them. No, you don't need to look like anybody. A church should be filled with people who look different, and who come from different areas in life, seeking to connect with God. Not a man who speaks about previously earning £400 a month, while also dressed in Gucci and expensive glasses. This subconsciously draws people's attention elsewhere, but of course this was PT's plan all along. To have the world's glories and to have a thriving community church, which will later make a bank for themselves too. And the bank thing is another desire of PT's, by the way. So as a pastor, he doesn't desire for the world to know about Jesus. PT just wants to be recognized as someone who's created something for himself and to be able to offer opportunities, not salvation. Reminds me of what Satan wanted, but oh well, let's carry on. Let's not forget an important moment where PT imposed that we should give £200 every month. And at Hilton Bankside, then there would even be special white envelopes with gold writing into which you should deposit your seed money into. This was a mandatory giving because PT started off by giving away this amount too, in their famous story that he always says, plus £200 isn't a big deal to give unto the Lord, something that PT would also say. Leaders will set a bigger example by giving more, but expect congregation members who attend the fellowships to give this amount or more too. Why does the church feel like they absolutely need to pressure its congregation into giving a fixed amount? And in the same breath speak about how no one is forced to give, and then they do not take anything from the government, which has now been proven a lie because they did use that until PT discovered a way of extorting more money, allegedly. Which is this: nowhere does the Bible speak about this. Nowhere does the Bible say it is the basic interest of a man to be able to sow £1,000. This is Toby's ideology, and it's about time that we cut down on the organisation that put a cap on the amount we ought to give, because all giving is good no matter if it's £5 or £5,000. As long as the individual themselves chooses to give it, that's what needs to be done, and not envelopes. And so, this £200 scheme was also preached about through the month and revved Apple too, and as per usual, the leaders on the PT would encourage all to give this amount. This proved to be successful within the church because large were the numbers at the time and people were able to give with ease and brag about it. PT understood and therefore decided to raise it higher, and in defense he would say that a seed isn't legitimate unless it causes you pain to give it. Seed needs to be sacrificial. This is wrong. The Bible tells us that we should offer our bodies as a living sacrifice, not our money. God will never be satisfied with our works, only our heart posture towards him. Young girls, guys would give this amount and go to Spac consistently, and their parents would catch out the fact that this is what they're doing. No wonder why the giving is done secretly and amongst themselves. Spac only cares about their own interests. That's the £200 mandatory minimum giving for ministers evangelists, and this envelope will be found on your seat as you enter the hotel sometimes, or an usher will give it to you, followed by leaders reminding you at your various fellowships that you must give this in. So afterwards, PT also started to invest more in business ideas, and another one was a claim to get less people to give, but the people who did give were under the pressure to sow high amounts. 200 people to give 1k. He will do this to show the congregation that he really does not care about money and that people should have been placed under pressure. And therefore, if you do nominate yourself to give, then it's because you're fully capable of hitting that target. This is a lie, because PT sees every human being as a vessel to bring money in any type of amount despite the age you are. Mary Moeller said herself that whenever PT would call for people to stand up and put themselves forward to give fixed amount, she would force herself to give this. And according to her, she would be able to mobilize and hit the target always. Leaders will look at you differently if you don't go forward too. And once you're up before the stage, PT will come down to lay hands on you. Some would fall and others will stay on their feet. 200 people to give 1k. That will be one of their first targets. Once 100k will be reached, then it will be 300k, then it will be 500k. I do believe that he wishes for Spac to be able to receive $1 million in only a month, but that will never happen. Praise God. However, they did reach 800k in 1 year, and last year they made 1.2 million. This is what we need to combat, because it is through people's vulnerability mainly that they are collecting these funds. And until people wake up and smell the coffee, they will forever keep on raising money for them. Daylight robbery. A girl who I know, we used to talk, she even tried to do cake sales to raise money for seed. This is what I mean. If you're going to raise money, do it for yourself or for charity. Don't do it because leaders are mocking the amount you're giving. And now you need to come out your way. That's shocking. But what monkeys see, monkey do. PT would then announce plans of trying to hit £1 million seed target. He would pray and declare or prophesy that someone will be a millionaire in the church in the next year. But this is false. No one is a millionaire. And if they say Arthur is a millionaire, ask him to show proof of this. Just saying.
2.2 million, boom. Of course, that's our big target. 3.3 mil, boom. We want to give just twice next year. Just twice. I think it's going to be a brilliant idea. And who knows, that twice may become once though.
One of the biggest lie that PT mentioned was how Spac Nation was about to purchase a football stadium for £1 million. He mentioned a lot of things will be built on that football stadium, and he encouraged members to give as much as 2k to 5k every single month. This was also the beginning of what Spac Nation will call lines. But before I expand on the lines, let's remain on the topic of the football stadium. PT actually showed a video where they visited the stadium. It looked like a semi-professional stadium. And then he told them that the deal was basically done and that he had a lot of partners with it. And he started to promise a lot of the Spac members a lot of dreams, where he said a lot of things will be built around the stadiums. There will be offices there. People will have classes for different sports going on there. And the lie became so outrageous. But for some reason, the Spac Nation members really believed in it. They really thought that PT went out of his way to actually start to invest in a real business that could change a lot of the Spac Nation's lives. This is where the nonsense began. This is where seed started to increase at a different rate. It went from £200 minimum to now 1k to 2k. So he would introduce a business idea and tell members to invest large sums of money, and that would be like an investment into helping the future of Spac Nation. Months went by with members heavily investing large sums of money, and then PT moved on to his next business. He never spoke about the football stadium, never mentioned it again. He moved on to now saying that the nation was going to have their own flats, where he would build 200 flats for 200 members. So he was encouraging, he said the highest givers would have their own flat. Bearing in mind that Spac Nation at the time had about 800 to 1,000 members. So telling them 200, there was only space for 200 people, only encouraged most of his members to sow more than they've ever sold before. Again, PT would find ways to make the members raise ridiculous amount of money. Talking about the lines, which we will discuss on a different episode. But the flats was an obsession to the members. Each member really wanted to have their own flat. So some were sowing 2k every month, some were sowing 5k every month. But the logic behind that was quite ridiculous, because when you think about it, if you're going to give 2k every month for the next few years, you could have actually saved those 2k and put down money on your own accommodation. But the Spac members do not see it like this, because they all wanted to be with each other. And again, another sign of a cult. But guess what, guys? The flats never materialized, and PT never spoke about it again.
Isn't it time for us to build Spac Nation? The Lord told me this morning, Spac Nation, listen to what the Lord told me. He said, Spac Nation is a church. Yes, you are a church because that's my family on earth. He said, however, remind the people it is the biggest investment also for a new generation. So it's an investment company as well. So I'm declaring that to you today. Every giver, I call giver investors. That's what I call givers. I call them investors. They are investors. into souls and there is returns for it. So when people then say, well, is church a business? Says both. It is both. It is both a church, a spiritual ground. But as for Spac Nation, I don't know of others. It's also an investment. So I refuse to be a pastor that just takes tithe and offering and go away. No, I agree to be a pastor that takes it and build a monument directed by God for you to see and to walk in and to create future for all of us. So when I saw the Croydon office to be this morning, already I'm thinking this person's office can be here. This person's office can be here. We can have about 10 different companies in that one place, and they can try from there. And for the first 1 month, they don't need to worry about payment of rent. For the first 1 year, pardon me, they don't need to worry about payment of rent. But they can say, as the business grows, because what we're going to do is to have a general call center, and it directs people to each of those 10 offices, and everybody can have call center for their businesses there that can run 24/7. And we're going to build the upstairs to be a place, and this is temporary. It's whilst we're building the stadium, and there can be a space upstairs where people are able to pray 24/7 if they love to. We're going to get the office this month, if not this week. So those monies I want to bring back by the grace of God, of course, first into the word, but back into your community, because it's an investment group. So we have more than enough answer to give to those who ask us, why do we sacrifice like this? Why do we raise seeds like this? We raise it because all of us have nothing that when I say things like this, it makes me always want to cry. We have nothing that we can say it is ours. We've got nothing that we can say we belong to. You've got, if you want an office there, you apply to your community unit. They see your books and what you're about to do, and as long as you're a Spac National, there'll be nobody there that's not Spac National. It's not like, oh, we're doing it for the body of Christ. We will when we can afford it. Right now we can't. So for some of us, me too, this is all I've got, and this is great. It's not a small thing, it's big. Our offering for this month, our raising of money for this month, is also tied to submission. This is my submission list. The first group I open it's supposed to be for 100 people giving 2K, but I would close it at 70. Tonight I will open the next group. There's going to be 3 groups of giving this month. Today we struck a business deal that is life-changing. We struck a partnership that I think will change the life of many people today. And I'll tell you more about that tomorrow. I think it's life-changing. And I learned a lesson as well. Sometimes, and I've always known, sometimes when we're chasing some things and it's not coming through, back out a little bit and leave it. It is because the soul's necessary. So when I begin to speak to you tomorrow, you'll see what I'm saying is true. The soul's necessary for that business to come through. They are not in yet. And when those souls are in, it's not going to be with any stress, because they are the one that has the gold, and they don't even know it. A fish is not conscious of any gold in his mouth. It's just swimming. Struck a deal that is, we tried to do it 3-4 years ago, Minister Oni would say. 3-4 years ago. And the process was tough. The people around it were lunatics. And we just let it go. Now I'm sitting at home and then it comes. Just sitting at home and then it comes. And it comes with even the people saying, Lord, we thank you for bringing Pastor Toby into my life. I'm thinking, oh wow, really? Seriously? Though, seriously, because we needed it. God is good.
This is just a few videos just saying how PT would manipulate his members into giving ridiculous amount of money, and he starts to speak like the business is already there. And you saw in that first video when he mentioned how the office is already there, within a week or two. Guys, these videos are from 2017 and 2018, but guess what? No business has been materialized. So at the end of the day, PT is a man of lies, far from what the Bible expects pastors to be like. We've established that the church ain't going to be building any flats, any businesses, and there will be no Gold Nation music label either. Yes, this is another lie that Toby has unfortunately spewed out of his loose mouth. He has told us before that he's been in talks with Universal, and that they will be securing an 80 to 20 deal with them, and that they will be able to sign whoever they wish. The first signed artists were allegedly supposed to be Armstrong, Jordi Mankoto, and Gifty Louise, two of whom was previously on the X Factor, but however didn't succeed in getting first place. So what is happening with Gold Nation then? Is Universal still endorsing this? Because at the moment it's looking like a big cipher, and a way to trap the teenagers behind the street ciphers they're already doing. Let's hope this one is good for their sake, because we already know that nothing Spac does is positive for our community. Their actions have validated this. And where is this studio? Is it rented? Does it belong to them? So many questions with so little answers. Let's please be vigilant and warn our younger brothers and sisters out there to stay away from this organization. We can create opportunities for ourselves. We won't allow another individual or person to do this at a costly price for our souls being taken. This was episode 9. These are the PT lies that we've been able to pick up, and I believe we have even missed out on some due to how much he loves to talk, and he's probably planning a new idea to deceive us as we speak. Snap out of these lies if he has trapped you with it. And if this has affected you and you're still there, please leave. There's still time and no one will judge you. God bless. This information, I repeat, has not been fabricated by ourselves, but it's partly information that he has said and I've heard it with my own ears. Throughout the next couple episodes, we shall attempt to pin it all together in order for you guys to really understand who he is and how Spac became the dangerous call that it is. So this is episode 9 of Exposing Spac Nation, PT Jim Jones.